Second question, what policies will you look to put into place to ensure that LGBTQ plus students, staff, and families are safe and supported throughout the district? And we're going to start with Sabrina Landry.
Yes. First of all, I would like to put a stop to the book banning. A lot of that falls under the LGBTQ community. I do think that they are moving in the right direction with the new policies that they put in place. But the fact that there's still being questioned within the libraries, I feel like that's a problem. I feel like the talk about banning flags and things like that, I mean, if a teacher wants to wear a pin, let a teacher wear a pin. There's a lot of other policies that go a long way regarding the bathrooms, regarding the libraries, regarding the curriculum in itself. I think a lot of things, like they said, can be uncomfortable to learn, but it's part of our society. It's part of how we grow. If we continue to make the same mistakes, then how are we growing and how are we learning from history? So, I mean, LGBTQ, that goes back, way back in history. I mean, it's always been here. I can't think of the right word right now, I apologize. But, I mean, if you go back into history, LGBTQ has always been there. I mean, it's never changed. It's relevant today and it was relevant then.
Okay.
As I was saying in my opening, the board has done a number of things that I'd like to see that we improve upon and that we keep and not go backwards. Part of that would be the LGBTQ policies that we instituted shortly after the major lawsuit was settled. And we obviously shouldn't have had that lawsuit in the first place. I wasn't on the board. Okay, but anyway, after the lawsuit was settled, the board started sort of having a look, like with lawyers and everything about, wait a minute, we need to make some changes. And they did. It's not gone far enough. And part of the reason it hasn't gone far enough is there's still some lawsuits in Madison. There's still some other lawsuits that we're kind of looking at. I don't see any reason why a teacher should not be able to use a student's preferred pronoun. It just seems like it's a sign of respect. And we've always given teachers the authority to be able to call Anthony Tony. So maybe Antoinette could be Tony. I mean, it just is such a little thing that shows a lot of respect and a way to keep students comfortable. And students that are comfortable can learn better. And I have to say that I want to see our policies continue, and it did bother me this past year, these past 2 years, when people were talking about the fact that they didn't want to see a rainbow flag in the room. They didn't want to have a teacher wear a rainbow pin. It just seemed like it was such a little thing that could have big consequences. And I just really want to see our policies continue and not go backwards.
Todd?
So I don't have as much history as Mrs. Matter, but I do think that I participated in the policy committees that we had over the last year, and I thought they were well received. We had a lot of members from the community that weighed in on flags, basically, and I think we came up with a reasonable solution that kept the policy intact. But I actually am a little bit maybe more liberal in the sense that I really trust teachers. I think it's very important not to put such constraints on teachers. Teachers are in the front lines with their kids every day. they have to develop a special relationship with the children. And I wish we would not micromanage so much and give them a chance to have an authentic learning environment where teachers don't have to look over their shoulder and be worried every single time. Did I say the right thing, the wrong thing? I think we protect LGBTQ students. I think we protect all students when we empower teachers to have that humane, empathic, and loving experience with their children, always keeping in mind that they are not the first teachers, the parents are the first teachers, and the parents have every right to weigh in and have some conversation with the teacher if their kid's not feeling comfortable or if there's any bullying going on. But the safe space, I think, is when we have a curriculum that helps support our kids to basically appreciate diversity, basically to get to know folks instead of othering them and then being afraid of them or being ignorant or fearful or bullying them. So I say we empower our teachers, and I think our policy as it stands should stand. I think it's a good policy.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sitting here listening, I'm trying to understand what the word safe means and what that means to each group of people that's in this question. And I'm gonna just focus on saying one thing first, and then I'm gonna focus on one other aspect. I think there has to be just a change of culture in what it is just to be respectful of each other. All I know is I'll give away my age, I'm 61. As long as I can remember being in school, there were always bullies, there was always kids making fun of each other. I was Alfred E. Newman, if any of you guys are old enough to know who that was. So, I had hair down to here and, all this other kind of stuff. Growing up, being bullied, being made fun of, that is just part of growing up. I don't think there's any policy anywhere that's gonna diminish that. Unfortunately, it's got hugely worse because of social media. And I think that's probably the substantial difference in that. And I don't know how we can control that with a policy. But where I want to go with safe is because this goes back, I think, talking about where does safe come from. And if we want our school district to grow, one of the things that has to grow is with our teachers. We have a lack of teachers in all different levels. If our teachers don't feel safe at our schools, for whatever reason, we need to address that. And then I think once they feel safe in their job, safe in their environment, then we can explore other things. I think there's already policies in place that probably need to be looked at in an analytical kind of way and seeing which policies are working, which ones aren't, and trying to figure out why those policies are not working. I think if we look at it from a data standpoint, there'll be a story that's told, and it'll give us a better idea on how to move forward from this.
Mr. Ross.
So the first thing I always looked at is how did we get to a place where the only classroom that is safe in is that there's a flag up there? How did we get there when we have federal, state, and KUSD policy protecting all students from discrimination? That's supposed to already be happening. We're failing at that. Behavior is so bad. I talked to the KEA president. She said, how do I monitor 6 kids bullying when I got this kid doing this and I can't do it? And they don't have any support. We have to teach these kids how to respect themselves first, then teach them to respect each other. We're not gonna agree. Everybody has their own freedoms. Everybody has their own religions. Everybody has their own cultures. So you can't convince people to think in a different way. But we have to teach these kids. You gotta respect each other. Treat every human the way you want to be treated. That's what we need to get. Policy is policy, but if we don't enforce the policies, which doesn't seem to be happening, we can write 1,000 policies. If it's not enforced, what good is it? The only thing we can do is write policy and fire and hire the person that is supposed to enforce it. So I think we need to get to a place where we get these kids' behavior under control, and we need to teach them how to respect themselves and then how to respect each other. And I get it, we have kids from everywhere. I understand trauma. I know what it's like to be numb. Trust me. It took me 4 years to get normal. These kids are gonna have trust issues. They're gonna be not wanting to let you in. It's gonna be tough, but we gotta talk to each other. I don't know a lot of things about the LGBTQ plus community, but if we don't ever have a conversation, how can we work together? We don't do that. We don't have uncomfortable conversations. That's the only way I see that any kind of policy being put in place by us that is gonna benefit everybody is if we actually sit down and talk and figure out how you can feel respected and I can feel respected. You know, I feel like sometimes it pushes one group that have to put down their beliefs to accept your, no, we gotta respect each other. This is America, we have the freedom to live the lives we really want, but we all deserve respect. Thank you.
And Mr. Johnson.
Yes, again, this is everyone's gonna have there's no right, wrong, whatever answer to this. But just to take it back to one step prior to that, is that I'd like to see, to ensure that ethnic races on the most core level, that they feel safe and they're recognized. I think we need to start there. And so I would say that, let's start from there. And then, every culture has their own LGBT, culture within them. So to understand the cultures on the beginning level, you can start understanding those other tiers too.